David.
Oh, Laura.
We are going to have some guests today that have and continue to move the needle for not just Cardinal Glennon, but our community as a whole.
Oh, for sure. They are pivotal in the community of St. Louis.
They truly are. And it's interesting because I don't think that any of them honestly know one another or have ever gathered in the same room together. So
how cool that they get to do it here in our studio.
I know. And with us, how humbled am I that I get to be part of that, right? But it's an important topic to talk about and gather people like this in this room together because we're on a journey, as you know, and we were built nearly 70 years ago because of community and donor support.
Absolutely.
And the need is only going to grow greater for that as we embark in the next several decades of healthcare. And, I've said this before and I'll say it again, that I am immensely grateful for all of the people who supported Cardinal Glennon before I needed it for my son. And,
sure.
Those people put together the programs, the things, the structure of what was needed for my own son's healthcare before I needed it. And, I think of everybody who's going to need it for decades to come. And we need people like these people who are joining us today to lead the cause, right?
We do absolutely need, and not just people like the ones in our rooms, but everybody's support. It takes the entire community, like you said. We're gonna have a co-owner of a major sports team here in St. Louis with us today. We're gonna have the president of the oldest home building company in St. Louis with us today, the director of marketing for one of the most successful craft breweries here in St. Louis, who has just been skyrocketing throughout the community. And then last but certainly not least, we are going to have a newer friend to Cardinal Glennon who's going to share a little bit about his experience with his son who was treated at Cardinal Glennon.
These are all very inspiring people, and I would like to think that hearing their whys is going to be very inspiring to anybody who listens.
I'm so excited to get them all together and to have a conversation with them.
Me too.
Let's go.
Let's go. Well, welcome all of you to our very tiny little closet podcast studio. We're very excited to have you.
It's great to be here.
Okay. We're just crazy excited, honestly, to have all of this energy in one room together and to be able to kind of channel it all and farm it out there to whoever might be listening to us. So we know who you are, but please do us the honor of introducing yourselves in, 100 words or less, and say whatever you want to say about yourself, just so we can get to know you a little better. So we're going to start with Carolyn, and we'll go this way.
Great. So I'm Carolyn Kindle, CEO of City SC, the soccer team, and also president of the Enterprise Mobility Foundation. I do not have a family of my own. I really, truly should only worry about one living human in my household. I have two beautiful nieces that I love, a 74-year-old child, also known as my mother, who I love dearly, a little sister who could be complete opposite of me, yet she's my inspiration every day. She was the founder of Rung for Women. So I'm blessed to have an amazing family. I have an amazing group of employees, both at City and Enterprise, and I'm just very fortunate to be here today.
Thanks
We're
for
glad
being
to have
here.
you.
Yeah.
All right,
Okay.
Jim, let's go to you
I'm
next.
Jim Brennan. I'm president and owner of McKelvey Homes, married for 47 years to Rose, who is a member of the Guild. I've been involved in Cardinal Glennon for over 40 years, a longtime board member. I've got three sons. Phil's the oldest. He's married to Elizabeth, who actually was a NICU nurse here at Cardinal Glennon for several years. They have three the best grandchildren, Philip and Elizabeth. They have Olivia, who's 13, Duke, who's 11, and Megan, who is 8. And I'm very proud of them. Rose is involved with the Guild. And the kids actually have an annual donut sale where they raise money for Cardinal Glennon. So it's real exciting to see our family tradition of giving back to the community. and I'm happy to be here.
I love that. Okay.
All right. Well, hi, I'm Liz Swyer. I am with Hands Brewing Company. I'm our Chief Marketing Officer. I've been there for 9 years now. Fun fact is my brother is the CEO and founder of Hands also. So he asked me 9 years ago to come over and work for him. So it's been a fun journey for sure. I head up our citywide mission at Hands. So that's one of my favorite parts of the job, which I'm sure we'll get into later. I've been married 17 years to Paul. And he is a paramedic fireman at Maryland Heights. So really proud of his job as a first responder. And I have 2 kids, 14-year-old Henry and a 12-year-old Emma, that consume also a large portion of my life, which I love. So that's me in a nutshell.
Awesome.
Yep.
Okay. Last but not least.
Sounds good. My name is Greg Shurts, and I'm here as a Cardinal Glennon parent. Our son Patrick had an arterial switch surgery, his second day of life, and we're forever grateful and honored to be a part of the hospital and everything we can do for them. So my amazing wife, Kate, Patrick is our 4th son. We have Murphy, Finn, Lucy, and Patrick now is a happy, healthy 2-year-old who loves basketball and the bounce house. So
Awesome.
no issues there, but we couldn't be more excited to be here. And thanks for having us to represent some of the parent experience as well.
Jim, I have a question for you. You've been kind of one of our longer standing supporters for Cardinal Glennon, and I'm sure you've seen a lot over the years. What has deepened your connection to Cardinal Glennon Children's Hospital over the years?
Boy, it's with 40 years, David, it's really hard to put it into one. Dan Deerdorf was the spokesperson for our company that I worked at years ago, 40 years ago. And he was on the board at Cardinal Glennon and started a golf tournament. I was at the golf tournament as a sponsor, and I got invited for a tour, lo and behold, by John Hafley, God rest his soul. And he conveniently set up the tour the morning of a development board meeting. And he said, hey, I want you to meet some people. Well, Bob Costas was there, Alan Allred, a bunch of people, and they started talking about how we were going to have this Costas roast. And it was exciting. We were going to have Billy Crystal and Jerry Seinfeld, and we were selling tables for $1,000 each. So I left that meeting, and I started making calls. I made 10 calls to sell a table for $1,000, and everybody said yes. Next thing I know, I was vice chairman of the event, and I'm
Funny
running
how
other.
that happens.
And then I'm on the development board and development president. And I do have to tell you this, you're so busy. And I'll never forget, we'd have these meetings at 7 a.m, and I'm walking through the halls, and I'm going, man, I don't have time for this. And I saw a little girl, and she was maybe 5 or 6 years old. They had a nurse's aide with all these wires and tubes following her down the hall, and she was pushing a corn popper. And I was busy. I was important. I was busy. I had to get to a meeting. And I stopped for a minute to say hi to this little girl, and I asked the nurse, how's she doing? And she said, some days good, some days not so good, and today is a good day. And when I saw that little girl, that's when I decided, and that's probably been 30-something years ago, that I decided that no matter how busy I was, I had time, because this little girl was really in tough shape. I never knew what happened to her. But that kind of inspired me to just keep getting involved. And down here, and I tell you, there's great people. Once you come into those doors at Cardinal Glennon, you really feel the Glennon factor. People, Laura, you, David, everybody that I've met has always had a passion for helping kids in need. And it's kind of contagious.
So I kind of want to hear everybody's introduction story to Glennon. So you each came to us at some interval in your life for some reason. So if you can describe in a minute or two how you first got introduced to Glennon, how did that happen? So I want to know your origin story, so to speak. So Carolyn, we can ask you.
So there's been a couple of different times. So my mom is actually the chairwoman of the Enterprise Mobility Foundation. So we came down here, probably 10, 15 years ago, when Enterprise was looking at a partnership. And then in 22, I was asked to sit on the SSM Health Corporation board. So then I was able to come back down here within the last probably 2 or 3 years and did a tour and really got to learn more. And I was truly amazed. Just not only spending time with people in the NICU, but, the clinics and hearing about all the different languages that are spoken and how this hospital is so critical to this part of town, and learning more about how, kids are able to go home and treatments taught to caregivers. I mean, these are huge things that are, in my mind, transformational, especially in a kid's life, if they can go home and be taken care of in their surroundings. And so certainly meeting doctors, nurses, everything else, but to spend, a day here, like you were saying, and walking and hearing these stories and, it's sort of a good balance of, tears of joy, but also tears of sadness, but tears of appreciation. You're talking to some of these NICU parents and, they're like, oh, we're on our 3rd month. And I'm like, month. And not knowing ever really been exposed to that, it's just, you walk out going, I am so fortunate, but I also want to do what I can to help out, not only the staff, but, families that come in here. And it's truly amazing. And it touched my heart.
That's awesome. Liz, how about you?
So I think mine started over a beer, maybe 7 years
Most
ago.
stories start well like
right?
that.
My kind of
Before
girl.
Hands beer.
Yeah, always. But so I was introduced to Scott and Sarah from the foundation, and they came to the brewery, and we just really kind of started talking just to get to know each other and potentially what could be that we could do together. And that was back in 2018. And, our citywide beer and mission was already alive then, but we took it outside of citywide to just talk about the foundation and the hospital and what was important to you all that Four Hands could hopefully impact in some way. And I always love to start relationships outside of selling somebody beer that way, And back then, the Heart and Soul Gala was a thing. And so we wanted to do something to create something really special for everybody that was at that gala. So we created a committee from the Heart Center, I believe. Mm-hmm. So the Larry and Dorothy Dallas Heart Center. So Laura, you were there.
Yep.
And we brought people to the brewery, and some were also mothers or fathers from patients. And it was a really wonderful way to get to know what you all do every day and how this one beer could possibly impact this event. So we worked really hard in creating our first beer together. And we weren't really doing that back then with very many people because we were a small brewery. It's hard to do that. But when I walked into that gala, this is the best part where it's like, we need more. I want to learn more because I always look for relationships that are win-wins. How do we work together to feel really amazing that our time together made a difference? And just seeing the community that was at that gala that year, we had 600 plus probably bottles of our first Heart and Soul beer at every table. And then your 3D printer had a heart charm on every beer. Mm-hmm. And it really was a super beautiful thing. And my team all went. And I mean, I get a little emotional thinking about it because I can't believe it was that long ago, actually. Yeah. And that's kind of where our relationship blossomed, started, I would say. So it was fun.
We felt like we'd made it because we had a beer named after us.
It was so
like,
cool.
Wow, okay, we're on the map. We got a beer. It was awesome.
Yeah, it was awesome. Yeah. So, that's how we started.
Wow. It does. It's crazy. It's that long.
I know.
Wow. Okay, Greg, you're up.
Yeah. Well, we got to know Cardinal Glennon through necessity. We had a regular 20-week ultrasound anatomy scan, and our son, Patrick, had transposition of the great arteries. So the arteries go to the wrong ventricle of the heart, and therefore they need to be switched, which is very complicated, as one can imagine. And for a baby, I believe it's the size of a walnut. So you just think about the sheer talent to operate on a walnut. It's crazy. The great irony, my father-in-law, who's in town here, is a cardiothoracic surgeon. And so we basically talked to him and said, hey, and he said, there's like 3 people that are the best that do this. And we were so blessed and fortunate that Dr. Chuck Huddleston was one of them. And so it's a very complicated surgery. And for those that have met him, he just has the most perfect disposition and instills such wonderful confidence for parents and patients and families. And so it was a no-brainer. And the other thing that I think is so special about Cardinal Glennon, which I love talking about, but just to do the right thing, we looked, there's a couple other, and so we drove out to Riley. Boston does this surgery really well, and there's different complications. But at the time I was speaking to a therapist, and she had this very astute point that I think is really important for everyone. She said, there's 2 patients here. My amazing wife, Kate, who is going through this as well. And so the ability that we could be home in St. Louis, see our children, not have to move our family. We felt 100% confident in everything. And so throughout the experience, I think Jim, Carolyn had mentioned when the visits, you walk into the hospital and there's just a special feeling. It's just different from the person that checks you in to every single, God bless them, the PICU nurses, the NICU nurses, the janitorial staff to keep everything clean. We were coming out of COVID. Every detail, there's just a warmth and an energy that from our side is incredible. And I think the most impactful part, we have every advantage in the world, and it was really difficult for us. And looking around, the statistic, I believe it's at 68% now can't afford care that are taken care of at Cardinal Glennon, and it was impossibly hard for us. And so we just thought, if you add in all these other factors, and that just the fact that everyone has a place to go, the impact, the indelible imprint on these lives. And the second fact was we had a situation where our child, there was a fix. And we are so lucky in that you just see, as you said, families that are there for 3 months, people that are celebrating a year in the NICU, people that have multiple heart surgeries. So you have to go through that experience over and over again. And we have a perfectly healthy boy, Patrick. We've got, you wouldn't even know, and he's very proud of his scar and shows off his boo-boo. And just from the other side, the experience side, but also what you all talked about, we saw that, and it's hard to ignore. In particular, my father-in-law used to pick me up at 5:30 every morning, and we'd go, and Chuck Huddleston would be there at 6 a.m. Monday through Sunday, and he would stop, and Dr. Fiore scrubbed in as well. And they would give us an update, just a calm, cool, collective. Barb during the surgery, giving the updates. The communication was incredible. And so on the back end of this, Andrew Sutton in particular has been really wonderful. Right? He said, hey, whatever you need, we're a forever yes, our family. So just hope to be like Jim and 40 years later, but it's just been amazing to be a part of this. And as I always say, how do you thank someone for saving your kid's life? It's impossible. So we always just want to say thank you as best as we can.
No, that's powerful and impactful. I mean, you all are here because of Cardinal Glennon, and we thank you all for being here. But each of you has a different angle and a perspective and a set of strengths that you bring to the table. So I want to ask each of you what it is that you feel helps complement the mission of Cardinal Glennon. I mean, specifically the mission statement for all of SSM Healthcare is, through our exceptional healthcare services, we reveal the healing presence of God. But you all have also indicated that there's another layer to the Cardinal Glennon, to the Glennon Factor that you've all seen. So how do each of you believe that you help complement that mission that we do every day in the hospital?
Well, I think, do you want me to? I'm sorry.
Go ahead. No,
you keep
absolutely.
pointing at me, so I wasn't sure if that was my nudge, wink, wink. It's very interesting to hear you talk about your dad being so philanthropic, because that was my grandfather who actually founded Enterprise Mobility, and he believed that strong communities are successful communities. And of course, St. Louis was so near and dear to his heart that he sort of instilled at an early age why it was so important to get back to this community. So interesting, through the generations, he was probably more symphony, art museum, and then now to my generation, I think it's probably more things that have impact, mostly I would say on younger generations, because we have a 4th generation. With all that being said, though, you're not going to have a thriving community if you don't have a solid hospital system. And everything you just said about take out the glitz and glamour. These people come to work, they do their job, they do it well, but you have to have that. And what I go back to, one of the things that just impressed me was that Cardinal Glennon pulls from all over the region, and they continue to provide top care to sometimes the most vulnerable. And so from my perspective, I love telling that story because it encourages people that St. Louis is a thriving city. There is so many things why it's great for families, why it's great to live in the city for families. But so I think, again, I'm just so proud to be able to say that it's here in a city that multi-generations of my family have loved and adored. So I will lean more into why it's so important to have such a thriving healthcare system, particularly a children's hospital, in order for our community to continue to thrive.
Carolyn, I have to thank you and your family over so many years. I don't know if another family has done as much as your family has done for St. Louis. And what you've done with the stadium and the team and the excitement, and that's St. Louis spirit, it's amazing. And I kind of see my role as a couple things, to spread the word, to increase awareness of Cardinal Glennon. So whenever it comes up, and I've had friends that, Greg, like you, they had a grandson that was born with a heart issue, and they had the resources, they could go anywhere in the world. And they started doing the research, and they found out, surprising to them, that here it is right in St. Louis. And so Dr. Fiore, Dr. Huddleston operated on their little grandson. He's probably older than your Patrick now. And they're contributors of Glennon now. But it's like we've got this identity that maybe people don't really realize, how Cardinal Glennon is a world-class health organization, and you can't find a more caring place. So not only raising funds, spreading the word there, increasing the awareness, and I'm real excited about the new hospital being built. I think that will help really increase the image of Cardinal Glennon. And, I don't know what else to say. It's been just such a great experience for me over the years to continue to be involved, and very rewarding to see how our future generations, with Philip and Patrick and Charlie, Brennan, Elizabeth, and the grandkids all helping out. The events are great fun, and I know that's where a lot of people get an awareness of it. We've got Keith Urban coming up. Pretty soon. Mm-hmm. And so that's exciting. Rose loves country, so we've been big supporters of that.
Rose is going to have a blast at Glennon Live.
Yes, she is.
They say he's cute. I don't know.
Well, Nicole Kidman likes him, so,
He's all right.
I mean, I think I would echo on the fact of, what I feel like not only myself, but my company and our team can do from an impact standpoint for Glennon is driving awareness, and when we look at, what we do every day, it's very, very different from what the Glennon team does every day. But that's also okay. It's our vessel to reach out to the community and to do good and to do the work. It's one thing to say it, but we also want to do the work. We do that through beer, but we do that in so many other ways, So we've been around for 14 years this year, and St. Louis as a whole is so important to us. We want and we see the beauty in St. Louis. So how do we reach out to people that don't just buy our beer, but do good in the community and help them draw awareness to our followers, or the people that love to pick up a Four Hands in the store? Maybe they're listening to what we're doing for the Sun Run or for Glennon Live, or they're going to come visit us when we're releasing our new Glennon Live can, this April at our Chesterfield location. So, I think that's what it's about. And over the years, it has been so easy and so fun to do it with this team, because not only is Glennon an amazing hospital, it's the people in these buildings that make it so amazing, and I mean, I can attest to, I feel like I have 10 new best friends over all these years. It's more than work. So I think that's what I try to do, with our mission every day, and y'all just make it easy. So,
but there's immense power in that. Like, if you think about, if your child isn't sick, or you don't have a relative or a family member who has a child who needs health care, you may not know about Cardinal Glennon, right? But if you're in St. Louis, most people drink beer, right?
Right.
So what a
so.
wonderful vessel. You're
Right.
meeting people where they're at and bringing awareness to something that they don't know they need. And then maybe when or if they do need it,
Right.
there's some name recognition,
Yeah,
right?
absolutely.
And same with soccer. I feel like we're a big soccer town, right? And gosh, gee darn, I hope people don't need Cardinal Glennon, but if they do, maybe there's some awareness. You know what I mean? I don't know.
Absolutely.
How about you, sir?
I think those are incredible points. And in addition, I think everyone sort of has some 6th degree of separation where they know someone that's been affected, whether it be a cardinal or a child that's gone through something. And so when you put it all together, I think the more you learn, the more you realize the huge village that makes this place run. It's really fun to visit this site, to see you all sort of behind the scenes for all those great events and the big marketing team and all the work that goes in. So thank you for all that. And I think it's just like spreading the gospel. It's an amazing place. I think it embodies that St. Louis spirit of a little bit more gritty and hardworking and sort of very down to earth. And, we sort of, on our experience, that warmth of just, it made it feel very St. Louis just as a town. I come from the East Coast, so I'm a transplant here and a big convert. It's been an amazing place for our family, but there's just a really nice natural way about everyone, super down to earth, really of a giving attitude and a general kindness that's you feel it everywhere, but you especially feel it in that hospital. And I think what's amazing too for everyone, there's so many ways to get involved, whether it be having fun and going to a concert, drinking beer, which everyone loves, supporting the teams, and just in general, just that there's tons of ways to help. And, you see those children and it pretty much, that's all you need to see.
Well, we'll take you, Mr. East Coast. We'll take you right here. Right here. So Jim mentioned it. So you all know, it's no secret, we're in the middle of building a new hospital, which is very, very exciting.
It's so exciting for all of us.
Yes. So we're going to shift some questions in that direction a little bit. So Carolyn, the stadium was built from the ground up. You didn't have to retrofit nothing. You got to design it and forward think and, just do whatever you wanted, keeping what you might want, years from now in mind. And I feel like we're excited about that too. We have a blank slate and we really get to be creative and innovative and, design for evolution, right? Because our current limitations in our current space hinder us from, making those technological adaptations easily and things like that. So we really want to evolve with where healthcare is going and integrate technologies more rapidly and just be more adaptable and things like that. So I feel like we both see the value in the forward thinking, right? So how do you see that mindset, that forward-thinking mindset, have a role?
Well, I think first of all, I need to say thank you. There was lots of citywides consumed during the 5 years of building a stadium, and the lovely treasures we found, cow bones, springs we didn't know about, delays. So we sincerely appreciate
Thanking you back.
the support you gave us. So interestingly enough, when we started the stadium, it was right when COVID had started.
Yeah.
So we had started, the first shovels went in the ground February 2nd, I believe.
Stop.
So
really?
so we learned a lot because we weren't sure how were people going to attend sporting events. So after getting through kind of that whole phase, it was really, of course, it was definitely about technology, but then it became about a greater good of fan experience. Being able to build from the ground up allows you to think about, is this sort of a trend or is this how life will evolve? And so I think having renovated a building and building from the ground up 10 times over ground up, less surprises. But I do think in talking to, the group here, how they're envisioning these buildings to be built and taking into things that may or may not be considered, and the flexibility of things have to be changed is critical and really most important.
Wow. No, that's a great perspective to have, just in how how things can, how you can, well, almost like you were saying earlier, Liz, about writing your own story. Like you're getting to, like you said, is it a trend or do we get to have a say in this and shape it? So I think that's phenomenal. Liz, I'm going to ask you a question about kind of growth and impact in the community as well. So you all started downtown with your first location of Four Hands. You have since expanded. You've mentioned the Chesterfield location that you are in the district, and then you recently opened up a location in Kirkwood. Is that correct?
Mm-hmm. Yes.
So am I missing any other locations? I mean, you're just kind of spreading yourselves out around the community here.
Yeah, we just opened a Terminal 2 at the airport also. So we're really excited about that. Mm-hmm.
That's awesome. So, I mean, like what we're seeing is, as we've been hearing some conversations on the hospital end from the leaders in healthcare about how important it is to make sure that you're finding people where they are in communities. Greg, like you said, how it was great that Cardinal Glennon was here, but you saw other people who had to travel so far. So it's another way to think about that forward-thinking mindset and how expansion is important. Liz, for the future of Four Hands, what do you hope the involvement that you all have with Cardinal Glennon, do you think that can inspire other community organizations to also support a hospital that does so much good for the community and beyond?
Yeah, I mean, I hope that the community sees what we've done together over the years, and with our expansion, it allows us to talk and touch more people, because it's all about the experience. So when I look at our locations, you get a Four Hands experience, but it's a little different each spot that you go now based on where it is, But I think the impact of Citywide and the mission around Citywide and how you all have contributed to help us spread awareness that Citywide gives back to the community. A lot of companies and businesses, corporations around town all have a different philanthropic stance and they give back in their own way. So I think my message or my hope is if you're not giving back, think about it, and there's not one way to do it. So Citywide, we give back $1 per case sold in the market, and we choose different nonprofits to work with. And what comes out of maybe a relationship with one nonprofit is very different from the relationship with another, which I love. So the opportunity, the sky is the limit on how we can impact, hopefully, each other, throughout the years. And I think that that's my hope because, again, I'm able to do all of this through my job. And it's one of my favorite parts of what I do every day. So I think it's important for companies to understand and recognize what having a program, a mission from a philanthropic standpoint, can do for their employees.
Well, I just kind of want to layer on that philosophy of that commitment of giving back and what that does to kind of ground your company and your employees and things like that. And you have a company motto, Jim, only quality endures. And I think that both in your company and personally, you have a belief of how important it is to give back. So, I mean, companies that have the level of success that you do have such an ability to strengthen a community if you embody that philosophy. So when you have so many choices of what you could do and how you could help, what does it take for you as a company or you as a individual to earn your loyalty, to earn your trust? You know what I mean?
Excuse me, several things there, Laura. I remember on my dad's deathbed 25 years ago, he went through some of the charities that he supported, and he didn't have much. And I said, Dad, why are you so generous? And he said, Jimmy, every time I gave anything, it came back to me in spades. And you don't really give to expect something in return, but it's uncanny how the more we have given, me, my family, my company, the better we've done. And my wife, Rose, says nobody should be hungry, nobody should be homeless, and nobody should be without health care. So those are the three important things for us. Like you with the cases, a couple years ago, I was fortunate to buy a company that was 100 years old, 25 years ago. So McKelvey Homes when we celebrated our 125th anniversary a couple years ago, we wanted to do something special. So it was founded in 1898 by James McKelvey. And so what we said is, for every home we sell, we're going to give $1,898 to a charity. And the first charity we selected was Cardinal Glennon. And all our employees love it. It makes you feel good. There's nothing like the satisfaction of giving something to others in need. It's one thing to get a gift, but I have more fun giving away. It really is exciting.
You do hear that with people, that they say that it's part of the gratitude that they get whenever you give that act of giving. All right, Greg, I've got a question for you. So, being a recent parent to having experienced inside the walls of Cardinal Glennon, you know what we have. You chose us, which we are very thankful for, and we're so glad to hear that Patrick's doing well. But you've seen what we have to offer, what we do, but you've also seen what it could be. Can you kind of give a juxtaposition of what the impact you've seen that Cardinal Glennon does, but then also what the potential could be for Cardinal Glennon in the future with continued support?
I think the new hospital is the best living, breathing example of that. Was fortunate to be at an event in Florida for Cardinal Glennon last week, and to hear the unveiling of all the plans, the incredible building from the ground up, the thoughtfulness, the meticulous detail, from space for parents to get outside and view the city just for fresh air that's elevated, to rounded walls so you could see around them, to beautiful colors for children. It was a lovely building, a little tired, as everyone knows, and you still operated in this incredible pace and scale and immense talent that goes within those walls, where it doesn't matter. But now you add on top the resources, the technology, not a trend, but the things that are changing in the medical industry, and the thoughtfulness of everything's the best chance of a good outcome. And so to be able to increase the variables for success of good outcomes, it's just is making an incredibly strong place even stronger. And I think that's what's really exciting. And for all of us in this room, it's pretty rare to have a new hospital built, one in a town, and two, one that everyone's tied to. So, probably a once in a lifetime event, where to be a part of that, I think there's just this extra special call to action for everyone now. And then it's why everyone loves real estate so much. It's tangible. Sports, any company that's product based, you can touch it, you can feel it, you can see it, and you can experience it. And so it's just a wonderful embodiment of everything. And so I think what you already have is a special product, and now the vessel to amplify it even better. It's just incredible. So the sky's the limit.
The sky's the limit.
Sky's the limit. It's going to be tall. You each and collectively have abundant choices to which you could devote your energy, your time, your resources. If you were to have the platform, and you do, because we're sitting here talking together, if somebody had a gift to give, big or small, why should they choose Cardinal Glennon? Whether they're within our community, outside of our community, why Glennon?
I think the best reason is you just go see those children. Jim, you had a very personal story of meeting that little girl in the hallway, and the statistic alone about the vast majority, 2/3, can't afford regular care. You see that look on a little kid's face, or what they're going through, or someone hooked up to all those tubes, and you know exactly where your money's going. And that's a pretty special thing. And there's a lot of wonderful charities and places that need. And so in the countless amounts of them, but to see a child get the care that they couldn't otherwise get, I can't think of anything better than that. And they've got the whole time value of a full life ahead of them to enjoy it. So it's pretty special, where you pinch yourself of, without this surgery, our son wouldn't be here. And so we get every day with him. That's about as good as it gets.
I kind of think when you support Glennon and give to Glennon, just like you said, big or small, you bring something into your life that you actually didn't know existed. For me, thus far, I've been fortunate enough to not need the services of Glennon. So I may not be thinking that I should give to Glennon. But what if I do one day? And also, what if I don't? There are so many families that when you give to Glennon or you want to choose to spend time at an event, you get to see what your dollars are doing. You get to see what your time is doing just by being there. And so that is what I think goes farther sometimes than the money. It's what you actually get in return, whether you need it or not. A lot of people need it. So I think that that's a special thing that Glennon gives you and gives the community. So take time to learn about Glennon.
Well, I've had 4 decades of thinking about this. And, Greg, your comment on everybody likes real estate. I remember sitting in a strategic planning meeting for Cardinal Glennon when I was on the board and talking about how SLU is building this new hospital. And we go into established neighborhoods and we'll do individual homes, tear down. And there's just something about the existing homes that are left when our brand new, beautiful home gets built. And, people tell me, well, we're looking at an existing home. And I said, you mean a used home? And there's nothing like something new because it's more functional. And I remember back in grade school at St. Joseph, Croatian, when they encouraged us to contribute to buy a brick for Cardinal Glennon Children's Hospital. And, the thought that you could help build something that's going to last for, when was the hospital, 60 years ago?
Yeah,
something
almost
that's
70.
70, lasting. And I was there when they had the anniversary. Was it the 60th,
The 60th,
anniversary?
yeah.
And one of the people came to speak, and he said, I would not be here like your son Patrick, alive, if it wasn't for Glennon. He was the first heart surgery back then. And he's lived a full life. I think he retired now, but it was really special being there. So, it's, you're helping the most vulnerable people there, children who are ill and who do not have the resources to do it themselves. So I think that's our duty to help. And I'm proud to do that.
I think, so obviously I agree with everything you guys all said, and I 100% think that's true. So I'm going to take a little bit of a different angle because I think it's important to point out that there's a huge community aspect to this hospital. And it may be a single mom who fell on hard times that needs diapers. It may be paying for a social worker that can assess if a situation is dangerous for both parent and child. And so I think one of the things that I would say is the variety of gift, whether it's small or large, but it's also the things you can give it to that mean the most to you. And to be able to have that community outreach that this hospital has in the neighborhoods they do, like I said, these are, think about, I don't know, but I know diapers are expensive. But if you're giving a poor single parent an option, that is huge. And I think whether it's food, but like I said, hearing about some of the ways they can assess situations. And so I think that it's more, yes, it's definitely a hospital. It's definitely saving children's lives, but it's really more comprehensive in saving families, and it's also saving a community. And so if you have money to give, it doesn't necessarily have to go to a traditional heart monitor, for instance, but maybe it's you're providing food for a family for a month. And so I think that that's a very important part to the whole story. It is so much bigger than, yes, just treating children. It's treating families and communities.
This has been humbling and inspiring talking with all of you today, and we want to thank you all so much for taking the time out of your busy schedules today. Jim, you mentioned when you were in grade school that there was the brick campaign to build the original Cardinal Glennon almost 70 years ago. And so we've seen it takes an entire community of support to do something that magnificent. And I just want to thank you all so much for all of the past support that you have provided us with, everything that you're doing today. I mean, even literally spending time out of your busy schedules today with us in our podcast studio talking about your roles and the impact of Cardinal Glennon. And then, of course, all of the things that we are all going to do together for the future of Cardinal Glennon, as we are all very excited to see where we get to go and what it gets to do for the St. Louis community. So thank you all so much for spending your time with us today.
Thank you.
Thanks for having us.
Thank you.
We hope you enjoyed this episode of The Glennon Factor. Make sure you follow The Glennon Factor and leave us a review wherever you get your podcasts. Visit glennon.org if you would like to learn more about how you can support Cardinal Glennon kids. And while you're there, feel free to share any feedback or episode suggestions on our podcast page. The Glennon Factor is recorded and produced by SSM Health Cardinal Glennon Children's Foundation.